You want it? Fix it. The words dropped like lead in the afternoon air. Sunlight bounced off the cherry-red Ferrari, gleaming like a trophy. But this wasn't a gift, it was a dare. The man speaking was Wade Collins, real estate mogul, Instagram billionaire, and professional show-off. He stood tall in his designer suit, surrounded by his entourage, flanked by two luxury SUVs blasting trap music and clout. He pointed at the broken-down Ferrari in front of him. Engine hood popped, a smoke trail still curling out. "This car?" Wade smirked. "It's yours, all yours, if you can get it running." Across from him stood Isaiah, dark-skinned, quiet, grease on his hoodie, eyes sharp but unreadable. He looked at the car, then at Wade, then at the crowd gathering. Someone chuckled from the back. "Yo, Wade, this man doesn't even have real tools." Wade laughed, loud and exaggerated. "Man probably doesn't even have a license. You really think he can handle a machine like this?" Phones came out. Instagram stories were already live. TikTokers were setting up. One girl whispered, "This is going to be embarrassing." But Isaiah just stepped forward. No comeback. No smile, no hesitation. He leaned in, glanced at the engine, placed his hand gently on the body like it was alive, then nodded. Once. Wade blinked. "Wait, that's it? You're in?" Isaiah gave the smallest of shrugs. "You said it's mine if I fix it." The crowd roared, some in laughter, some in disbelief. "Bro, he's really gonna try." The Ferrari had been dead for months. Wade had taken it to 3 shops. All failed. It was a custom rebuild from an obscure Italian designer. No dealership touched it. Wade turned it into a running joke. Now it was just content, clickbait. And Isaiah. To them, he was just background. Wade crossed his arms. "All right, I'll even let you use the shop out back. Cameras stay rolling, though. We want to see every second of this." Isaiah walked over to the car again. No hesitation. He didn't even ask what the problem was. A silence settled over the crowd. They didn't expect this man actually to step up. Most people would have laughed it off, maybe taken a selfie, and left. But not him. Wade clapped. "All right then, get ready, people. This is about to be the easiest Ferrari I've ever given away." A teenage kid whispered to his sister, "He's gonna make a fool of himself." But the sister frowned, watching Isaiah. "I don't know." Look at his eyes. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He wasn't smiling for the cameras. He looked at the car like he knew it, like he'd seen its insides before, like he understood the pain. Then he turned to Wade. "You sure you want to do this?" The crowd gasped, a complete sentence. Wade laughed. "Man, please, be my guest. Try all you want, the junk's yours when it dies again." Isaiah turned back to the car. "It won't." He didn't say a word, but what he did next would shut them all up. By the next morning, word had spread, not just across the block, across the entire town. Local gossip pages, Facebook groups, even the high school bulletin boards were buzzing with it. Some random dude is trying to fix Wade Collins' Ferrari. People started showing up to stare. Isaiah hadn't touched the engine yet. Not publicly. All he'd done the first night was roll the Ferrari into the old shop behind Wade's mansion. Quietly, without a single word to the crowd. Some thought he chickened out. Others said he was meditating. A few joked he fell asleep. But by 10 a.m., the mockery had begun. "He's still in there?" "Man is probably watching YouTube tutorials. They should live stream this mess." A group of teenage boys stood around the shop door, tossing soda cans at a trash bin. One kid mimicked Isaiah's walk, slow, head down, like a zombie. Another did a fake interview impression. "Sir, how does it feel to ruin a $400,000 car?" Laughter followed. Even Wade reposted a meme someone made of Isaiah photoshopped as a caveman holding a wrench. Inside, Isaiah didn't react. He moved like time didn't apply to him, quiet, methodical, clean. He organized tools he never asked for. He swept the floor. He inspected each part of the car without touching anything yet, like he was listening for something. Outside, a few people actually tried to peek through the windows. He hasn't even opened the engine yet. See? He doesn't know what he's doing. Wade's got this in the bag. One girl, live streaming the whole thing, whispered into her phone, "Y'all, he's pacing, not fixing. I don't even think he's qualified." But one older man, leaning on a fence with a thick coffee in his hand, kept watching silently. He didn't laugh. He didn't film, just watched. Another person noticed and asked, "Why are you so quiet, Mr. Leon?" Leon sipped his coffee, then said, "Y'all don't know who that is, do you?" The group blinked. Some broke dude, right? Leon smiled faintly. "Keep thinking that. This gonna be better than Netflix." Back inside, Isaiah knelt beside the Ferrari. His fingers hovered over the engine. He touched a bolt, then paused. People outside saw the shop lights flick on. "Oh, he's finally starting." Phones were lifted, comments rolled in, memes were ready, but Isaiah didn't rush. He reached for a notebook from his backpack. On it were hand-drawn schematics, scribbled notes, and something else. A photo. It showed him as a teenager, standing in front of a stripped-down race car, smiling next to a man who looked like an older version of him. The caption, handwritten in ink, "Build what they say you can't." Isaiah looked at it for a long time. Then he stood, grabbed a ratchet, and took a deep breath. The mocking outside continued. But Isaiah wasn't listening, because he already knew the truth. What they didn't realize, he already saw the problem and the solution. Mr. Leon wasn't the type to talk much, but something about Isaiah stirred a memory, one that reached back years. He sipped his coffee and stared toward the garage where Isaiah worked, then spoke just loud enough for those around him to hear. "Y'all remember that kid who built a street racer out of junk parts back in 2010? A few heads turned, some shook their heads. One woman raised an eyebrow. "What does that have to do with this?" Leon didn't answer directly. "That car beat 3 professional racers, I remember, because I bet against him. Lost $50 and my pride." Another guy laughed. "You telling me that's the same dude?" Leon just nodded. Same eyes, same silence. Meanwhile, inside the garage, Isaiah ran his fingers over the engine components as if he were reading Braille. He wasn't fixing yet. He was remembering. This car wasn't just another machine, it was a symbol, and symbols carry weight. Flashback. Age 15, Isaiah's backyard, rusted frames, old batteries, borrowed tools. Other kids were chasing dreams on PlayStation. Isaiah was building them, bolt by bolt. His father, Raymond, stood beside him, a former street racer turned mechanic, now working 2 jobs to keep the lights on. He didn't have money to send Isaiah to engineering school, but he knew, and he gave it all to his son. "Son," he'd say, handing him a busted carburetor, "you gotta feel the machine, don't just read manuals. Listen to the gaps, the silences. That's where truth hides." By 16, Isaiah had built a full-functioning engine from junkyard scraps. By 17, he had beaten racers twice his age in underground circuits. No sponsors, no team, just talent. But no matter how fast he was, there was always a wall he couldn't break. Not on the track, but off it. People wouldn't look at his car. They looked at his skin. One night, after a particularly humiliating loss handed to a wealthy white racer with inferior skills, Isaiah overheard the race organizer say, "That kid's too good. We don't want a story like his. We want someone people will pay to watch." That night, he stopped racing. Instead, he turned to design. At 19, Isaiah submitted an anonymous entry into an international competition to build the most efficient eco-performance engine blueprint. He won, hands down. But weeks later, a big-name company claimed its intern had submitted the design. Isaiah never even got a call back. And that intern? His name was Wade Collins. Back in the present, Isaiah glanced down at the Ferrari's intake valve. It had a slight asymmetry, one only the original designer would recognize. It was his. He wasn't just fixing a car. He was reclaiming something that was stolen. Isaiah didn't grow up with much. No garage, no mentors, just a broken-down car his uncle left behind and a mother who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. But what he did have was curiosity. He used to sit in that car for hours, not driving, just listening to the clicks, the hums. The engine would sputter when it was tired or growl when it wanted to run. At 12, he dismantled his first carburetor. By 13, he was fixing neighbors' lawnmowers for lunch money. At 15, he rebuilt a complete transmission from parts he found in a junkyard. But Isaiah didn't just fix things. He understood them. He was the kind of kid who could look at a machine and see what it wanted. Where others saw steel and wires, Isaiah saw rhythm. He could hear what was wrong before most could even open the hood. By the time he turned 17, people started calling him the Engine Whisperer. Word spread. He got invited to amateur races. Backyard builders started coming to him for help. They'd bring him cars that didn't make sense, custom builds, experimental parts, and Isaiah would find a way to make them sing. One of those racers, a quiet MIT alum named Dr. Maddox, noticed, "You don't belong out here in the heat," he told Isaiah after one race. "You belong in a lab." He helped him apply to MIT. Isaiah was accepted on a full scholarship, the first in his family, a dream come true. But dreams get complicated when you don't look the way people expect a genius to look. On campus, professors questioned his placement, students whispered behind his back. He got put in the practical labs, not the design ones. One professor, Dr. Kenneth Bray, a former automotive tech lead, took a special interest in Isaiah's ideas. At first, Isaiah thought it was mentorship. He shared his sketches, prototypes, a custom design for a fuel-independent, high-torque electric motor, something that could revolutionize racing. Dr. Bray nodded, took notes, and asked questions. But when Isaiah submitted the design for a grant, he was told the idea was already under review by another student, one Isaiah had never even met. The betrayal cut deep, and when he spoke up, they said he was mistaken, that he must have misunderstood. Isaiah dropped out that semester. He returned home, reputation in ruins, dreams shredded, but not his knowledge, not his hands, not the rhythm he heard in machines. That same rhythm pulsed in the broken Ferrari in front of him now, and there was something familiar about it, the design, the curvature of the intake. The wiring harness had been rerouted. His eyes narrowed. No way. He ran his fingers along the engine bay, a tiny mark, half worn, etched in the corner of the mount, his initials, IR. It was his design, modified, hidden, but unmistakable. He leaned back, heart pounding, brain racing, all this time. And the car Wade flexed on social media, the one built from a secret European blueprint, had been based on his stolen engine design. He chuckled once, quietly. Fate had a sense of humor. Outside, the crowd was buzzing again. A few noticed a change in Isaiah's energy. He moved differently now, sharper, more confident. Like someone who had just been reminded of who he really was. The millionaire thought it was a joke. He just gave him the one car he built himself. Wade couldn't ignore it anymore. He came down to the garage, camera crew in tow, ready to stir things up for content. He expected chaos, tools flying, screwed-up bolts, frustration. But what he found was silence, focus, order. Isaiah had the Ferrari stripped with surgical precision. Each part is laid out like a blueprint. No clutter, no panic, just progress. "Yo!" Wade called out, half laughing. "Need some real tools? Or maybe some real mechanics?" Isaiah didn't look up. "No." "No," Wade mocked. "What, you think you're some one-man pit crew?" Isaiah stood slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. "You said I could use the garage, nothing more. That's all I need." Wade scoffed. "Bro, we got state-of-the-art diagnostics, thermal imaging, and AI-assisted tuning. You're telling me you'd rather do this by hand?" Isaiah nodded. "If I touch it, I trust it." The crew chuckled. One of Wade's assistants leaned in, whispering, Boss, he's really not using anything. He even covered the sensors with tape. Wade's face twisted. So you're just winging it? No, Isaiah said, voice calm. I know this car. The crowd, gathered again outside, was hanging on every word now. A teenage girl whispered to her brother. He doesn't even flinch when Wade talks. Her brother replied. Yeah, he's got that main character energy. Back inside, Isaiah worked on. No shortcuts, no apps, just torque, muscle memory, and instinct. Wade, frustrated, tried again. You're wasting time, man. I got engineers who'll fix that thing in 2 days flat. Isaiah didn't even pause. Let them try after I'm done. The garage fell silent again. Later that afternoon, 2 of Wade's hired technicians walked in, curious. You want a second set of eyes? One offered, half sincere, half amused. Isaiah glanced at them, then at the engine. Appreciate it, but no. You sure? This wiring system is custom, could take forever solo. Isaiah smirked. Not if you built it. That line hit different. Even one of the techs blinked. Wait, you designed this? Isaiah didn't answer. He didn't need to. They left quietly. Outside, someone started a live stream captioned, He's turning down $1 million help. This dude's different. Comments flooded in. He's cooking for... This guy's confidence is unreal. Watch him win this whole thing without saying 10 words. That night, the shop lights stayed on long after the crowd had gone home. Isaiah sat under the glow, sketching updates to the ignition route, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The Ferrari wasn't just a car anymore. It was his signature. And then, the Millionaire returned. With cameras. The 6th day was different. The buzz wasn't just local anymore. News trucks pulled up before noon. Influencers with ring lights and microphones swarmed the sidewalk. A drone hovered above the garage, filming everything from the sky. Hashtags were trending. A Ferrari fix challenge. Underdog mechanic. Wade gets owned. Everyone wanted to know, would the car run? Could the quiet guy really pull it off? Wade leaned into the chaos hard. He brought in a brand partnership. 2 energy drink banners outside the garage, his assistant handing out promo codes to curious onlookers. Today's the day, Wade said into the camera. Let's see if this local legend can actually do more than look intense. He laughed. The crowd chuckled. But their eyes weren't on him. They were watching Isaiah. He didn't wear gloves today. His hands needed to feel everything. He'd cleaned and rewired the entire fuse box, realigned the transmission, and was now down to the final systems check. Inside, the air felt charged, as if a storm were coming. A group of reporters pushed past the velvet ropes Wade's team had set up. Sir, are you ready to start the engine today? Isaiah didn't answer. Do you think you've proven something yet? Still nothing. Wade stepped in front of the cameras. He's just focused, folks. Let's give the man some space while he fails gracefully. Isaiah walked over to the driver's side. He sat down, took one slow breath. His fingers hovered above the ignition like a pianist before the first note. He didn't turn the key, not yet. Instead, he reached into his backpack and pulled out a small black box, something no one had seen before. Wait! What is that? A cameraman whispered. Isaiah popped the hood, installed the box near the control module, and ran a custom wire loop into the dash. Yo, he's modding the Ferrari? Someone yelled. A ripple went through the crowd. Why would he change something now? But Isaiah wasn't second-guessing. He was finishing what someone else had stolen. This final component? It was the missing piece from the original engine design, the very part MIT lost, the one they said wouldn't work. But Isaiah had perfected it years ago. Now, it was time to prove it. He tightened the last bolt, closed the hood, wiped his hands, then walked back to the driver's seat. The garage was dead quiet. Wade stood near the entrance, arms crossed, trying to look casual, but his jaw was locked tight. Isaiah turned the key. Click. Then, a roar. Not just any roar. A deep, guttural, fire-breathing growl that shook the windows. People screamed, cameras zoomed in. A kid dropped his phone. The engine wasn't just running, it was alive. Rev, 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 every piston in sync, every valve tuned to perfection. The crowd lost it. Isaiah didn't smile. He just shut off the engine, stepped out of the car, and walked to the edge of the garage. He looked directly at Wade, didn't say a word. Didn't need to. And when he turned the key, the sound shattered everything. Silence. For a few precious seconds, that roar echoed through the air, bouncing off garage walls, cutting through the sound of city life. And then came the silence. Not awkward, not empty, but stunned. No one knew what to say. Isaiah stepped away from the Ferrari like a man walking off a battlefield. Not victorious, not smug, just finished like he had nothing left to prove. Outside the garage, people stood frozen. Phones are still aimed, hands trembling. It wasn't just that the car started. It was how it sounded, how it felt. Deep, vicious, perfect, a symphony of combustion. A teenage boy slowly whispered, "That wasn't normal." His friend replied, "That sounded like a whole dragon." Wade hadn't moved. He stood like a statue at the edge of the garage, his camera crew now silent, unsure if they should keep rolling. The smug grin was gone. His arms weren't crossed anymore. His lips parted, but no words came out. Isaiah walked right past him. Didn't nod, didn't look, just walked. The crowd parted like water. One little girl clapped, then a few more joined. Within seconds, the place erupted, not like a sports event. This wasn't noise for noise's sake. This was something more profound. Respect. People who didn't even know how an engine worked were moved. It wasn't about the car anymore. It was about the man behind it. Wade's phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, calls, social tags, but all he could do was stare at the Ferrari. His Ferrari now, Isaiah's Ferrari. A local news anchor pushed a mic in Wade's face. "Mr. Collins, do you have a comment?" Wade blinked, then tried to chuckle. "Well, guess I gotta hand him the keys now, huh?" The anchor smiled. "He already has them." Wade flinched, just a little. More claps, more cheers, more cameras are turning toward Isaiah. He walked up to Mr. Leon, the older man who'd been watching from day one. Leon grinned. Told every single one of them." Isaiah nodded once. "Thank you for waiting." "I knew," Leon said. "Knew since that lawnmower engine in my backyard this was always coming." Isaiah looked out at the crowd. The same faces that had laughed at him 5 days ago were now silent, wide-eyed, respectful, people who had doubted, dismissed, and mocked. Now they're recording like fans at a concert. And Isaiah? He wasn't angry. He was still, grounded, powerful, the kind of quiet that doesn't need to raise its voice. He turned back to the Ferrari, opened the door, and started it again. This time, no hesitation. The engine didn't just start, it sang. Crowds pressed in, comments exploded online. This man built a car in a moment. Wade got humbled, and I'm here for it. That's not a fix, that's a resurrection. But the real flex? Isaiah didn't rev it for show. He just let it idle, calm, confident. The roar was behind him now, and then the crowd turned and on him, the man who thought money made him untouchable. By the next morning, the video had over 11 million views, not Wade's video, the crowd's. Clips from every angle, Isaiah starting the Ferrari, the roar, the crowd erupting, Wade standing awkward and silent. Every platform had it. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, even Facebook moms were sharing it with captions like, "Never underestimate quiet strength." Wade woke up to headlines that didn't mention his name until the third paragraph. Mystery mechanic revives dead Ferrari in viral redemption moment. The the silent genius who humbled a millionaire. Underdog turns joke into jaw-dropping victory. He stormed down to the garage with his phone in hand, mumbling, "This is ridiculous. I made this go viral." But no one was listening. They were listening to Isaiah. That morning, a crowd 3 times bigger than the one from the day before had gathered. People held signs reading, "Isaiah built that," "Genius lives here," and "Let the man drive." Someone had even printed his face on a t-shirt. Isaiah arrived quietly, same hoodie, same backpack, same calm. But everything had changed. Kids swarmed him, not with ridicule, but with questions. "How'd you learn that stuff? Can I come work for you? Will you teach me?" One even said, "You're like Tony Stark, but real." Wade tried to squeeze into a news circle, but the mics turned away. One reporter actually stepped between him and the camera. "Sir, we're trying to get a better angle on Isaiah, do you mind?" Wade froze. He, the man who used to own the camera's attention, now couldn't get a soundbite if he paid for it. Back at the shop, Isaiah was standing beside the Ferrari, answering softly as a little boy asked him how engines worked. "It's rhythm," he said. "Once you hear the rhythm, you know what's off." The boy grinned like he'd been given a superpower. Nearby, a local professor from the tech college shook Isaiah's hand. "We'd love to have you speak, maybe even lead a workshop. What have you done here? That's what real engineering looks like." For the first time, Isaiah's eyebrows lifted slightly. Maybe. Wade, watching all of this from the shadows of the garage, started to panic. This wasn't just a moment anymore. This was movement. The crowd wasn't just admiring Isaiah. They were rejecting him, someone shouted from the crowd. "Hey, Wade, you still think he's a joke?" Laughter followed. Wade raised a hand, trying to smile. "It was all in good fun, guys. Entertainment, right?" The smiles dropped. A different voice shouted, "You tried to humiliate him. He built your car." Someone else added, "He built your reputation." Now cameras turned, not out of interest, but scrutiny. Wade stepped back. Isaiah hadn't said a thing to him, didn't need to, because the people had spoken, and they weren't on Wade's side anymore. But the best moment? It was yet to come. The sun was beginning to dip behind the skyline, casting golden light over the crowd. People were still arriving, not to see a Ferrari, but to witness the man who had just silenced a millionaire with a wrench and a whisper. But one question now floated above all the others. Can he drive it? Don't just start it, not just idle it, not even rev it. Could he take it to the road? Wade, lurking near the sidelines, overheard it too. His face tightened. He walked toward Isaiah, trailed by 2 camera guys trying to get a redemption shot. "You got it running?" Wade said, voice clipped. "Impressive." Isaiah nodded once. Wade glanced at the Ferrari. "So, you gonna drive it?" The crowd fell still. It wasn't a challenge. It was a last chance for Wade to reclaim authority, to shift the power dynamic back in his favor. Isaiah turned toward the crowd, looked around, and then he opened the passenger door. "Leon," he said, voice clear. "You coming?" Mr. Leon blinked. "Me?" "You told me never to stop building. You're riding shotgun." The older man's eyes welled. A few people clapped just from that alone. Isaiah walked to the driver's seat, slid in. The crowd tensed. Wade held his breath. The key turned. That engine, already legendary, fired up like thunder rolling across pavement. Isaiah tapped the throttle. Just once. The crowd didn't cheer, they held on. Slowly, deliberately, Isaiah shifted into gear and rolled the Ferrari down the drive. Mr. Leon rode beside him, speechless, one hand resting on the dashboard like it was a sacred thing. Isaiah reached the end of the lot, paused, looked in the rearview mirror, then the tires chirped. Not burnout, not drama, just precision. He took the turn smoothly, sharp, elegant, and then he was gone. The crowd stood, stunned again. This wasn't a joyride. It was a statement. Back inside, Wade lowered his sunglasses, trying to act cool, but the damage was done. This wasn't his garage anymore. But Isaiah wasn't finished. He had one last destination. The Ferrari cut through the late afternoon light like it belonged there. But Isaiah wasn't headed for the freeway. Not a photo op, not a press event, no top speed stunts, no influencers riding shotgun. He took the back roads, winding lanes, old trees leaning over cracked asphalt, the kind of path that smelled like soil and memory. Mr. Leon watched him closely. Not a word was exchanged for several miles. Just the rhythmic hum of the engine and the calm of a man finally aligned with his purpose. "You nervous?" Leon finally asked. Isaiah shook his head. "No, I've been driving this road in my mind for years." The Ferrari, for all its fire and fury earlier, now moved like silk. There was no pretense in the way Isaiah handled it. He wasn't showing off. He was connecting with the machine, with the road, with the version of himself that once fixed rusted engines under borrowed light. They passed the old gas station where Isaiah used to sit as a teen, watching cars he couldn't afford. The guy behind the counter came running out, jaw dropped, holding his phone like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Further up, two old high school classmates sat on folding chairs outside a barber shop. One squinted, leaned forward, and whispered, "Ain't that—" The other cut him off. "That's him." No one waved, no one shouted. It was better than that. They knew. Every turn Isaiah took felt less like a trip and more like a return. A full-circle moment guided by patience, not revenge. "You know where we're going?" Leon asked. Isaiah nodded. "Yeah, home." He turned down a narrow lane, gravel this time, that wound through farmland and tall grass. Then, in the distance, it appeared, a modest house. Faded red bricks, the porch swing is slightly crooked, tools still hanging where they always did. Isaiah slowed the car, pulled into the dirt drive. Leon looked around. "Still looks the same." Isaiah smiled for the first time. That's the point. He stepped out. Not for show, not for cameras, to feel the earth under his feet. The Ferrari, that screaming machine of legend, now sat quietly beside a patch of dandelions and a beat-up lawnmower. It looked perfectly out of place, and perfectly right. Isaiah opened the front gate, sauntered toward the porch, touched the railing. Leon didn't move, just watched. "You gonna tell her?" he asked. Isaiah looked back once, nodded. "Yeah." Because even though she was gone, even though the house stood empty, this was always the destination. Not the garage, not the finish line. Here, where it started. He first picked up a wrench at 7 years old, his mother told him. You don't need to be loud to be strong. Where he built his first engine out of scrap and willpower, and now, years later, he had returned with a car people said would never run, and a spirit no one could break. But Isaiah wasn't done yet, not until she heard it too. It didn't take long for the world to come calling. The Ferrari's resurrection had already become a viral sensation. Still, now people wanted more than just a soundbite. They wanted to hear from the man behind the machine. At first, Isaiah stayed quiet. Offers came in daily. Sponsorships, TV appearances, podcasts, influencer collabs, car shows. Some were genuine, most weren't. Can we fly you to LA for a YouTube mega collab? Want to host a build-off series? We'll pay 6 figures. Isaiah, this is Netflix. We have an idea. Isaiah didn't answer. Until one night in the same house where it all started, he sat down at the kitchen table, placed his phone on a coffee can tripod, and hit record. No filters, no crew, just one shot, one message. His voice was calm, measured. You don't know me, but you've seen what I built. What you didn't see was everything before that. You didn't see the nights I spent fixing engines by candlelight when the power went out. You didn't see the teachers who told me to stop daydreaming, or the neighbors who laughed when I collected junk parts from the dump, or the jobs that wouldn't hire me because I didn't have a real background, Or the people who crossed the street when they saw me with grease on my face. He paused. But you know what I did see? I saw the beauty in broken things. I saw rhythm in rust. I saw potential where others saw trash. He lifted a wrench. This was my education. This was my weapon. This was my peace. I didn't go viral because of a car. I went viral because you all finally saw what was always there. I don't need fame. I don't need a stage. But if this moment means something to you, if it reminds you of your own dreams, your own silence, your own fight, then don't clap for me. Build something. The video ended. No call to like, no promo link, no music. It spread like fire. Shared, quoted, stitched, translated. People didn't just repost it, they felt it. This wasn't a message. It was a mirror. My dad cried watching this. I'm going back to school. I'm going to finish what I started. The world needs more Isaiahs. Or maybe we already have them. They need a moment. And in one final twist, the world gave Isaiah something he never expected. Or wanted. 3 weeks after his video went viral, Isaiah got a knock on the door. Not a reporter, not a fan. It was Wade, dressed sharp, subtle cologne, a car parked outside that definitely wasn't the Ferrari. Isaiah stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Wade didn't look smug, didn't look angry. He looked small. Can I come in? He asked. Isaiah didn't answer. Just stepped aside. Wade entered slowly like a man walking into a church. The house was simple, clean, worn in all the right ways, the kind of place money couldn't buy because money never built it. They sat at the table where Isaiah had filmed his message. Wade glanced around. Didn't expect this. Isaiah raised an eyebrow. Expect what? I don't know. More. Isaiah shrugged. This is more. Silence. Then Wade leaned forward and slid a folder across the table. Inside, paperwork, contracts, bank transfers, partnership terms, branding mock-ups, logo, Isaiah performance. I want to back you, Wade said. Shops, a team, you name it. Isaiah didn't touch the folder. You think I need your money? He asked. No, Wade said quickly. You don't. But maybe I need to do something right for once. Isaiah studied him. You didn't come here for me, he said. Wade flinched. You came here for your name, for your brand, for your apology tour. Wade tried to smile. Maybe, but maybe I also see what I missed. Isaiah leaned back, thought for a long moment, then asked a question Wade didn't expect. Would you have done this if the video flopped? Wade looked away. That was enough. Isaiah stood, walked to the front door, opened it. Take your money, he said, and build something yourself, for once. Wade froze. Isaiah continued. You want redemption? It's not bought, it's earned, like everything else I've ever touched. Wade didn't argue, just nodded once. He walked out quietly, folder still in hand. Isaiah stood in the doorway, watching him leave, calm, unmoved. As Wade's car disappeared down the road, Mr. Leon stepped out from the side yard. You said no, huh? Isaiah didn't look back. I said enough. Leon grinned. That's more than most ever say. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Isaiah looked up at the sky, a quiet smile, because he finally understood the offer he needed had already been accepted by himself. But before this story ends, there's one last turn of the key. A month later, the Ferrari sat in a small community garage on the east side of town. Not behind glass, not on a showroom floor. Right next to it was a busted lawnmower, a rusted-out Civic, and a toolbox with Isaiah's name on it. Kids from the neighborhood came by after school, not to take selfies, but to learn. There was no admission fee, just curiosity. Isaiah taught them what he knew, how to listen to an engine, how to hold a wrench, how to try even when it doesn't work. Mr. Leon helped out too. He'd retired 3 times by now, but somehow never stopped showing up. One afternoon, a girl, maybe 13, pointed to the Ferrari and asked, "Is it really yours?" Isaiah smiled. "It was never about owning it," he said. "It was about earning it." She paused. "So what do you do now that you've already fixed it?" Isaiah looked around at the garage, at the oil-stained floor, the eager eyes, the humming heart of community reborn. "I teach others how to build what no one believes they can." That's when another car rolled up. Not flashy, not loud. It stopped at the curb. A man stepped out. Isaiah's father, gray in his beard now, fewer words in his eyes, but the same hands, weathered and worn from a life of working, surviving, regretting. He didn't walk up right away, just stood there. Isaiah saw him. Didn't move, didn't run, just waited. Finally, the man approached. "I saw the video," his father said. "All of them." Isaiah nodded. The man looked at the Ferrari. "You fixed it." "No," Isaiah said. "I fixed me." A long silence passed between them, the kind where history sits heavy in the chest. Then his father did something unexpected. He held out his hand, and Isaiah shook it. No speech, no hug, not yet. But it was enough. The camera of the world had turned away by then. The clicks were gone, the hashtags faded, but something real had replaced them. In a forgotten corner of the city, a Ferrari had come full circle, from arrogance to redemption, from metal to meaning. And in that same corner, a man once broken by silence had become the engine behind a movement. If this story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told to quit, like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and share it with someone who needs to believe again.